pull that out then. Okay, so we're still talking about how the chain of responsibility is going to make this easier, and we're looking at, again, these three kind of areas of the code. The one is up here where we're doing some specialized handling of things that have nothing to do with the execute command. And then the second part of it is we're actually doing what we want the execute to do, or the hive mind to do, which is just execute all these things. And then at the very end, we're doing more stuff that has no business being here. So hopefully we'll be able to break those three things out. So let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here. Attorney says, next episode, Ariugu plays Twitch chat extension methods. Yeah, that could happen actually. Yeah, I like that. Doop doop doo. Doop doop bow. All right. All right, so this is what, and I apologize because we're out of time, but this is what it looks like now in our hive mind. And then when we come back, we're going to look at the chain of responsibility. Cool? But the idea being that none of this actually belongs here at this point. And the more code we throw into it, the crazier it looks. And it's not going to be the end of the crazy debug shenanigans if we keep throwing more things in. It's only going to get worse. So now is absolutely the time to go ahead and factor everything out, and hopefully what we'll see at the end of that is the things flow a little bit cleaner, where the idea of having to harden every little aspect of our business logic goes away. We aren't chasing ghosts in the machine, and everyone's happier. Garoon says it's definitely at the bottom. Huh. Hang on. Let's go ahead and stop this. Chasing ghosts. Oh, look at that. Groon gets the prize. Resharper is highlighting that, saying that this is a possible null reference exception, and it is. Boom, 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 boom. So this would do nothing. Because and it's unique in that login and look around are the only two places where you wouldn't have a target. Is that right? That should be it. So maybe we want to process target request or process request with target, and then for chain responsibility we want to do process request without target. Maybe that's the best option. So that way requests that come in with a target can be processed one way, and then requests without a target can be processed a different way. So if those requests ever grow, they can do so in their own channels, so that we aren't constantly looking around and checking for this. Right? So we aren't constantly putting a bunch of this stuff everywhere. Like, why do I care? I don't. And we aren't chasing ghosts. Grun asks, wouldn't it be better to take a more flexible command processing, meaning that the commands are responsible for extracting and validating arguments? Maybe. Maybe. So we glossed over the iterator pattern before, not the iterator, the interpreter pattern before, and we implemented a very lightweight version. And we said we're not going to give a ton of thought to this, but we're just going to make it a very, very simple. And this is where a lot of our cruft is coming, right? So, yeah, and Tori says, eventually you have to get there, commands can pass their callbacks. Right. So there's these elements of complexity that just don't exist yet. But in terms of the interpreter pattern, this is where we're going to start seeing this complexity grow. If it grows, it's going to grow here, where we find ourselves continually dumping in business logic into this area to make sense of commands. And eventually this is going to be the wrong place for it. And it might be, as Grun says and as Turney say, that we're going to need to take that and encapsulate it in some other place. Right? But all things in good time. This has all been the look at how these things can be extracted out into chain responsibility, and if that's the correct way. And I still think it's going to be the lowest hanging fruit for right now. Turney says you'll eventually need a sending pipeline to all players, which organizes who did what when and manages pub sub notifications. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And pub sub is yet another pattern. You guys are really reading the playbook here. So yeah, so you have the interpreter pattern needs to go in there. You need to have a pub sub pattern also needs to get in there. The only problem we're going to run into is, just like we hit this end of the first semester, this kind of what we're going to be doing for those first kind of 8 weeks. In phase 2, we're really trying to break it up into also 8 weeks. So we've got singleton, decorator, chain responsibility, and then the to be determined, which could be the pub subs and the legit kind of interpreter. And then down here, you need to work in a repository. So, I hate to defer all those things, but we definitely want to introduce them like as that part of the, it feels a little bottlenecky and it feels a little mutually restrained, because we can identify where work needs to be done and we're saying, nah, let's not do that yet. But if we do it kind of in order, and we make note of where the things are, in some ways it does make programming a little bit more difficult, but from a learning standpoint, you can come in and you can see this block and you can say, okay, they really only did the singleton pattern this time, or they really only did the chain of responsibility. Grun says, I would strongly recommend against introducing event sourcing and CQRS to beginners. Both of those patterns are super seductive as they make sense, but they are rarely better than any of the alternatives, even if it doesn't seem so at the beginning. That might be true. That might be true. So, part of this has also been that at some point we could have said the same thing about the state pattern, and we should have said the same thing about the flyweight pattern. So, we'll definitely assess once we get there. I've definitely been reorganizing this. At first, I didn't think we'd be far enough along to do the singleton in a way that would have, been kind of safe to introduce. And I really didn't think the chain of responsibility, because that is a super seductive pattern. But I don't know. I've been kind of surprised by how much we've been able to write with all the limitations we placed on our coding. Anyway, let's give Grun the cookie for spotting that bug. Let's go ahead and build it. Let's go and start that. Ooh, Grun. I had to take that cookie back, man. Alright. So, in any case, we recognize that even the best minds available, given this level of complexity in the code, it's probably going to be something very simple someplace that's kind of tucked in there. But I think it really does serve the example that you could have 2 or 3 people looking at it, and to fix it, we're really just going to be sticking in a bunch of stuff. If there's anything to be taken away from this, the idea was we want to demonstrate that sticking in a bunch of logic into the hive mind is not the best way to go about preventing this bug and future bugs. Attorney says that it's the how to play. Yeah, see, there's another place where we're passing in these things where if the game action does not equal login. Could there be a third place? Maybe. Could there be a fourth place? Maybe. And then could this introduce itself into different areas of the hive mind as we make it more complex? Absolutely. So let's stick a pin in it, all right? Because we don't want to. We want to avoid doing what we've identified, right? We don't want to identify that a refactoring is necessary because it would force us to introduce all this business logic and then introduce a bunch of business logic. So let's come back next week and apply the chain of responsibility. And now that we've taken a real deep dive into the problem, we should be able to see whether or not the chain of responsibility actually fixes not just this problem, but the ability to introduce similar problems. Let's go ahead and commit. So we've got any untracked files. Okay.